It's the Score North Twin Show.
All right, Score North Extra Innings, Declan Goff with Ross Brendo right here on the Score North Twins YouTube channel. Twins by their chinny chin chin, which wasn't expected. They take game one against the Kansas City Royals by a final score of 6-5. They have to walk the plank a little bit there in the top of the ninth. Cole Sands and Sandstorm took the mound, and then Duran had to come in. Some awkward weak contact, some hit by pitches. And then all of a sudden they pitched to Bobby Witt Jr., which absolutely shocked me, and I'm sure shocked Patrick Royce wherever he is in Golden Valley right now. Regardless, Twins get a big win against a divisional foe, Roscoe. They've been winning games before, but now you get against your divisional foe that's in front of you, and one of them in Kansas City. It's good to get at least one game against an AL Central team. Twins take game one of this four-game series against the Royals.
Does this feel to you, Declan, like the next most important series of the season? This just feels like a series being at home, taking on a team that you're chasing, albeit still late May. Feels like a series you would love to get 3 out of 4, especially now after winning game one. And again, just another excellent outing by Joe Ryan. Declan, a few weeks ago, I asked you, poking fun at how early we do all-star voting and balloting, is Ryan Jeffers the Twins' only all-star? I still think Ryan Jeffers probably is an all-star, even though he's been slumping a little bit as of late. I think Joe Ryan has now entered that chat, and you and I talked about it, that as the summer goes on, there might be another player or two that falls into that mix. But this is a good win for the Minnesota Twins. Eventually, you're going to want to see him start beating teams like the Yankees. I know the Dodgers don't come around again, but teams like that, as well as the Guardians that you're chasing. But I think at this point, Declan, I'm pretty comfortable in saying I think Kansas City is going to stick around for quite some time. I don't really think they're going to come back to the pack maybe as much as we all thought they were. They are incredibly athletic, and they are fun to watch. And Bobby Witt Jr., my goodness. I mean, he's going to be a thorn in the Twins' side for a decade, and I know we've talked about that a bunch. But I think winning 3 out of 4, if not finding a way to get a sweep, would be absolutely awesome here. But just to be able to leave this series having gained ground on Kansas City would be very important to me, and this was a good first step today on Memorial Day Monday. By the way, thank you to those who have served and gave the ultimate sacrifice for this company. So if you, for this company, for this country.
And this company, too.
And this company, I guess, so I can get a paycheck. But if you are one of those people that have served, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. The Joe Ryan experience on Memorial Day, to a degree. Joe Ryan, who I tweeted out a picture. He, crocheted his T-shirt. You know what it looked like, Ross? Because you're a wrestling nerd. Thank God. You're like, yeah, I can actually explain this to someone who will know what I'm talking about. You know how the Rockers with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty had those, stringy shirts?
The tassels.
Crop tops. And so this was like that. It wasn't, true tassels, but it had, strips cut down almost to the end that were like tassels. And I asked him right before his press conference, I was like, is this new? I haven't seen this look. When you see a guy wearing a shirt like that, you're kind of like, well, I've never seen this before. What the hell is this? And he's like, oh, no, I've been trying it since the last start, and it's working for me, so I'm going to continue to make it work. Pitchers and superstitions, I know, a big shocker there. But Joe Ryan was excellent. The fastball, which has always been a lower velo fastball, but more of a deceptive fastball for Joe Ryan, today climbed up the velo charts. I mean, he was throwing 96. It was working for him. He continued to put hitters away with that. To your point, Ross, Kansas City's improved. I do think their pitching is probably still their better thing that they can hang their hat on this year, but that's a good lineup. Bobby Witt Jr., to your point, is pretty damn good. They have a good lineup that's exceeding expectations, but Joe Ryan was mowing them down today, and up until the top of the ninth inning, this was a cruise control win for pitching, going from Joe Ryan to Griffin Jacks. Again, I know there's a little bit of a stumble there in the ninth, but Joe Ryan was excellent. I mean, I think you can say now, too, Ross, I haven't talked to you since yesterday, or even in the last week or so on this podcast, but he's leapfrogged Pablo Lopez. Joe Ryan is your ace. I still am not too concerned. I'm not that concerned. I am concerned. I'm not that concerned with Pablo Lopez's ineffectiveness, but Joe Ryan, as we always love to do, too, to your cliches, if I was building a playoff rotation right now, Joe Ryan starts game one, and that's not even a hot take or a debate at this point.
Yeah, and the interesting part is, okay, let's play that game with 4 months left to go in the regular season. Twins still holding on to a wild card spot. Who would start the second game? Is it Bailey Ober? Could it be Chris Paddock? I'm not even sure Pablo Lopez at this point starts game number 2. My hunch is by the end of the season, he's definitely one of your first few starters. But be interesting to see how he rights the ship. He's just been absolutely, speaking of Pablo now, not Joe Ryan, he's just been absolutely hammered his last few times out. And by and large, Declan, to call it like it is, for much of the season, the results haven't been very good, and I know he's not happy about it. I did hear a rumor, Declan, maybe you can confirm Pablo Day now comes with hard hats for those sitting in the outfield.
LOL. Great one, Roscoe.
Thank you very much. Yeah, dad joke.
You've been waiting on that since yesterday afternoon, haven't you?
Yes, I was just waiting for the text. Are you available for extra innings? No, but I just think what we've talked about with Joe Ryan is I think everybody was hoping we would start to see this step. I think everybody, I think when you trade for Joe Ryan, and basically you give up 2 months of Nelson Cruz and you get Joe Ryan back, and if all you got was Joe Ryan from last year, you won that trade hands down. Right. Think about how much more you win that trade if he is truly taking that next step to be a number 1 or 2, not just a solid mid-rotation guy. And I think that's one thing the Twins were really kind of banking on when they didn't go out and do a ton to fortify their rotation. They were hoping to see him take that next step. I think they were hoping that Pablo would at least maintain. And Declan, let's be honest, Pablo probably very likely will still maintain. It's just guys have rough outings, guys have stretches where they don't pitch very well, and I'm confident that he'll get that back. But it's really fun to see with Joe Ryan, just because we've talked about it. He's just, you mentioned him with the shirt, he's just kind of an easy, gregarious character to like and get behind. And those are fun people that you need in your clubhouse. Baseball clubhouses, Declan, as you know, very interesting. You have the serious and stern type. You have the laid-back type. Then you have the oddballs and the wackos. But you kind of need that to make a good baseball team. It's
totally.
just kind of all, you throw it all in the kettle and you get one good soup of a roster. And hopefully that's what the Twins are finding here. As we now head towards June, Declan, we talked about this a few weeks back. I was hoping this team would be within 5 games when we got to June 1st. This is when they were 8.5 out.
Yeah.
Well, this sounds really bad. Except for the 7-game losing streak, they've played pretty well. The problem is it coincided with a, 9-game winning streak for the Guardians, so you really haven't been able to make up any ground. But, as you approach June 1st, Declan, and we're at this holiday, I still think the Twins are fine. I wouldn't outright say that they're going to win the division. Maybe they're not, but I think they're going to be in the mix all year long for a playoff spot.
Totally. And look, they're, as of now, and we keep playing this game, if the playoffs started today on this episode of the Score North Extra Innings Twins Show, Twins are 2.5 games up on the last wild card spot. So if the playoffs started today, they would be in the postseason. Now they'd be the final and 6th seed. And we'll see if, kind of what happens. Will the Guardians eventually cool off? I'd like to think so. I liked what I saw from them when I was down in Cleveland last weekend, but at the same time, they've won 9 in a row. They've been playing damn near flawless baseball. I would probably take the Yankees over Cleveland in a playoff series. But the Twins have done enough to show that, yeah, they are a playoff team, and there's still obviously a gap between the Cleveland, the New Yorks, and even the Baltimores of the world. The AL West, by the way, has completely flipped. The AL West is the worst division in baseball, and the AL Central has now become one of the best divisions in baseball, so kind of funny how that works. But yeah, man, I think that they've shown enough that they're a competitive team, and maybe they just need a missing piece here and there to push them over. They have largely, Ross, been a team that where they should be at 5 games over 500 to knock on the door of May without Royce Lewis, with Pablo Lopez, being completely ineffective, with IL stints to Correa and Buxton at some point. So if I would have told you all that would happen too, by the way, as I flip this around, would you have projected that they'd be 5 games over 500 before they even played a game in June 1st? I probably would have been like, hell no, what went wrong here? So, yeah, they've definitely, I think, done enough to show that, hey, they're a feisty team. The trade deadline, obviously, will probably show what this team could do or what they can add, and maybe that will change some perception. But right now, 5 games over 500, and to your point, take care of the damn games in your division, and it makes life easier. With the Twins winning today, they obviously they might not gain a game on Cleveland, who I believe is, I don't know if they're off today or if they're playing later. We're recording this at about 4:30 Central on a Monday, Memorial Day. But they, at the very least, they gain a game on Kansas City, who is in second place ahead of them in the Central.
Yeah, Cleveland had first pitch, I believe, at 3:10 Central out in Colorado. I've not been monitoring that. It's still a little bit too early, Declan, to scoreboard watches, as fun as we are having. Your point on the record, Declan, and yeah, we'll get to Royce Lewis here in a moment. I think had you not told me all that and just said blindly on May 27th the Twins are 5 games over 500, I think I'd probably say, yeah, It's a little disappointing, but that's fine. I think the wild card in that is I don't think I would have predicted how far Cleveland would be in front of the Twins.
Yes.
But you can't control that, Declan. You can only, I hate to sound like a cliche man, but you can only control your record and the games that you're playing. Cleveland's record will take care of itself over the next 4 months, as the Minnesota Twins record will take care of itself over the next 4 months. And to put a ball on a tee for you, hopefully within the next handful of days, that includes our guy, Royce Lewis, who I've said all along multiple times on this podcast with you, he's probably the straw that stirs the drink, and you just hope that when he comes back, he can play the remainder of the season, or at least most of it, largely healthy, because even when he's not hitting well, he still adds an extra element to the lineup that right now they currently don't have. He probably still takes the most professional at-bats in the lineup, Declan, maybe outside of Carlos Correa, and I could be missing somebody, but that's a long way of saying he's very important to this team in this lineup, and I know they'll be happy to get him back.
So quickly before I get the Royce Lewis update, you brought up a good point there that reminded me of the pregame conversation we had with Rocco Baldelli today, and there was a point Rocco said where he was watching and really looking at what's happening with Cleveland and Kansas City, on an off day or after a Twins game and stuff, and eventually he said, I just stopped because number one, they're going to keep winning, and what outside of scouting or trying to see how do I match up with my divisional foe, what's it going to do if I see the Guardians beat up on the Rockies?
Right, you're not playing them.
If the Twins don't take care of obviously the thing that's on their own field, nothing really matters here, and I do subscribe to that. I mean, yes, it'd be nice to get some breaks where when you win 4 games in a row, the other 2 teams in front of you aren't winning 8 and 9 games in a row. I get that. That is super frustrating. But at the end of the day, control what you can control. On Royce Lewis, so he played in back-to-back games Saturday, Sunday. The St. Paul Saints are off today on Memorial Day. They're still in the state of New York. They will play the Rochester Red Wings, obviously the former AAA affiliate of the Minnesota Twins organization. I was told at least 4 games total for Royce with the St. Paul Saints. That was the plan going in to his rehab assignment. He's obviously played 2 of the 4 so far. Both those came at DH. I'd envision obviously at least one of them, if not in these next 2 games for Royce, probably at third base to see where he is at defensively. We've had a bit of a journey with Willie Castro and Jose Miranda fielding-wise. We saw it on display. I think Miranda 2 errors yesterday. Willie Castro's mishap extended the inning today. Now, largely, they've gotten pretty decent at-bats from both those guys. It's not the full version of both those players, but I would envision Royce not coming back to the Twins. Well, not appearing for a game on this homestand. There is certainly a chance he is back here on Thursday on their getaway day before they head to Houston. There's also a chance he just meets the team in Houston. I would not expect Royce Lewis to play in this Kansas City series, but I think signs do point to Royce Lewis for the 2nd year in a row, basically making his season debut at Houston against an Astros team who got off to a slow start, but is now starting to play really, really well. So there is your Royce Lewis update.
How long ago does opening day feel when he got injured?
I know, man.
It literally feels forever ago, and it's been about 2 months. I think it was classic Royce Lewis. Boy, was it yesterday, 2 days ago? Must have been 2 days ago. First game back, he steals a base, and they basically had to admonish him. We told you not to steal bases. I think there's just certain things about players you're never going to be able to change.
Yeah.
That might be one of them. I know Buxton's gotten slightly better about not running through every wall, but at the end of the day, if Buxton thinks he can make a catch, he's going to try and make it, right? So how much can you really change these guys? But I'm excited to see him back. And Declan, I think it goes without saying, I just hope he can stay healthy. It's the same for Byron Buxton. It's not like these injuries are self-inflicted or manufactured. I mean, these guys are not trying to get injured, which is why you get so frustrated, but also why you feel so bad for them at the same point. If Royce Lewis had his way, he probably would have been back 4 weeks ago. There's an argument to be made. I don't know, maybe he could be, maybe he should have been, but also there's the argument on the other side where the Twins are, want to be cautious with him, and I get that too. Long season, if you can tell me we get Royce Lewis back healthy for 4 months, I would take that because I think he'll do big things for this team.
2 things on Royce too, and you just mentioned Buxton, and both of them have honestly the most similar paths you can make. Royce Lewis was a top pick, Byron Buxton was a 2nd overall pick. Both these guys were regarded as some of the best prospects in baseball when they came up. Both showed flashes of potential. Both have battled a insane amount of injuries. But I do personally think, and I think revisionist history, I'm playing it a little bit, you have already seen in a smaller sample size than what you first saw with Buxton that there is probably even a better, more complete hitter in Royce Lewis than Byron Buxton. And Buck was always going to be someone who swung and missed a lot. There was power there. There still is power there. But he was someone that was going to take a while to adjust to Major League pitching. Royce Lewis can hit Major League pitching. Like, I feel very confident saying that with just, the 2 seasons he's played here with the Twins. And, on the stolen base front, as much as this guy is, like, legitimately one of the nicest athletes I've ever interacted with, and everyone also says the same things just about how he carries himself, there is this kind of defiance to him that he wants to really show the organization that I'm ready to play. This quad injury, I can confirm, this is a quad injury that has definitely completely been the hardest for him mentally to get over, not because of the physical pain, but because of how scary the nature of the injury is and how gentle and how cautious the organization wants to be. So from his side, he's had ACL tears. He had a hamstring pull, obviously, right before the playoffs, and those were more physical ailments for him. This one has always felt, for the most part, that he's been able and ready to play. So that stolen base, as much as Rocco and I'm sure Derek Falvey and everyone else was screaming and pulling their hair out, which I know they were, that was also, I'm going to put myself in Royce's shoes. That's a bleep you to the organization saying that I'm ready to play. So, and to be honest, by the way, I love that. I absolutely love that your star player did that. I was not absolutely worried and concerned that he's stealing second. I thought it was a good thing. So yes, he's a star player and he's certainly going to act like one.
Well, and a part of me, Declan, thinks that if you got these guys in the right moment, maybe after an adult cocktail or two, I think they would also say that they appreciate that, right? I think they're terrified by it, but at the same time, I think you want to know that you have gamers and you have guys that want to go out and compete, and Royce Lewis wants to be here. Again, that goes back to what I said about Buxton and Royce Lewis. It's not like these guys are, oh, woe is us. Not a big deal. We're still cashing our paychecks. Well, to Royce Lewis's, I guess, point or credit, he's not really cashing a paycheck at this point. Right. He wants to play to earn that paycheck, and he can't make that big money if he's not on the field. So again, bottom line, I'm looking forward to getting him back. The Minnesota Twins are a much more fun team when he's a part of it and in the lineup. And Declan, your point on hitting Major League pitching, it's not just hitting Major League pitching, it's being able to hit it in high leverage situations. Not just the grand slams last year, but just the big at-bats in the playoffs, the big at-bats down the stretch. This is what this lineup needs when, by and large, most of the guys in this lineup, they're going to strike out probably once a game for the most part. He doesn't do that. So it's just another guy that can be in the lineup that's going to give you quality at-bats in a lineup where, not to be mean, you're just lacking that. That's the way the lineup's currently constructed, so it's going to happen. But if you can get more guys in the lineup, they're going to have quality at-bats and put the ball in play. That's good for everybody.
Hit the like button, subscribe button right here on Score North Extra Innings. We got Coach Trevor Plouffe will join Phil Mackey and myself tomorrow for a full-strength twin show for the first time in almost a week. Roscoe, do you have a hard-hitting question for me before we say goodbye today?
I do, and I honestly can't give you an answer, but Bill Wlaton, a big Deadhead, a big Grateful Dead fan, passed away today. Also, we have the ice cream from Ben & Jerry, Cherry Garcia, inspired by the Grateful Dead. Do you have a favorite Ben & Jerry's ice cream?
Ooh, so
I can tell you I will eat a lot of them. I can't name many of them by name.
True. And by the way, if Ben & Jerry's wants to proudly sponsor the Score North Twin Show,
right
I will
here.
learn all of the names. So two
That's
things.
DGoff.
Please reach out to me. So disclaimer, I am more of a gummy and sour sweets person than I am a chocolate ice cream person. And there's some overlap between the two, but typically you fall on one of those two sides.
Sure.
And I would even say I'm probably more in the minority. Like, I don't like cake and I don't like chocolate. I know that sounds weird coming out of my mouth because I think a lot of people like cake and they certainly like chocolate. But if when we do have like birthday cake served and there's always a side of ice cream, I will always opt in for the ice cream. I will say my favorite ice cream, and whether, our friends at Ben & Jerry's make this one, anything that is like Moose Tracks, if you're familiar with Moose Tracks from Kemp's.
Yes.
Or like, that one's really good. And I know this is very plain Jane and just the worst possible answer. love me a good vanilla bean ice cream. Absolutely can devour just a vanilla ice cream. I know that's a lame answer, but that would definitely be my go-to one.
Also, the Kemp's New York vanilla is very good. That's just like that darker shade of vanilla. That's a good ice cream. The one that everybody loves from Ben and Jerry's, you can get your Hey Now ready, is the Chunky Monkey.
Yeah.
And Chunky Monkey, as I click on this here, I'm on Ben and Jerry's website. Again, hashtag not a sponsor, but they can be a sponsor. Banana ice cream with fudge chunks and walnuts. I'm not the biggest nuts person in ice cream.
Can't stand that.
But I do like the other two, so I will stomach through that. So there we go. Thoughts and prayers to the Walton family and all the deadheads who have lost another member of their fandom today, including Rocco Baldelli, big deadhead.
Big Deadhead fan and a fan of Bill Wlaton. He shared a little story with us towards the end of his post-game presser today that he obviously heard the news towards the end of the game, and he shared that Bill Wlaton left him and I don't know if it was the coaching staff or just the team. I can probably just say the team. A voicemail and a little voice message about being ready to get ready for the playoffs or something, and he said he'll always have that message. It kind of sits in a very special place in his heart. Bill Wlaton, dude, obviously not even just an incredible basketball player and obviously one of the best announcers and most unorthodox announcers in a very industry that is stale with the same suit and tie and all this BS that I can't stand with announcers, to be honest. Hence why I'm wearing a quarter zip and joggers today. But Bill Wlaton was also just, and I don't think this is cliche, I never met him, just like an unbelievable human. Yep. And you know this too, in the industry of broadcasters and athletes and sports, and yes, it's a fun job to have if you have it. It's very rare you actually meet just normal, kind-hearted, and I shouldn't say normal, kind-hearted people like Bill Wlaton.
Good catch.
Because he was a very, very obviously special guy.
He and Dave Pasch were must-see TV late in Bill Walton's career, and I always felt like Dave was basically his hired babysitter, but he seemed to embrace that role. And yeah, he will definitely be missed. And later on in his career, I always felt bad because he was doing a lot of Pac-12 basketball, and especially for those weeknight games, didn't get to see a ton of them because some of them don't start till darn near 10 o'clock Central Time. But yeah, R.I.P. Bill Wlaton, and again, thank you to all the service men and women who have served this country.
Absolutely, yeah. I got two sibs in the service. They fought overseas, so I can be an ass of myself on a microphone. And
isn't that wonderful?
It is wonderful, and I would have not a fun time at basic training. I'm well aware of those faults. Look at us. Look at us. That would not be a fun time. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Trevor Plouffe will join us tomorrow with Phil and myself. Another Extra Innings episode before Game 2. We finally have an evening game after 3 straight day games. It's a Wrigley Field over here. I mean, we've been playing day games for the last 3 straight days. An evening game, so you can expect an Extra Innings piece of content before first pitch as well. Hit the like button, subscribe button. Shout out to everyone for watching us here on Memorial Day weekend. Thank you everyone for their service. We'll be back tomorrow.